This is Trekzone's Vegas or Bus Tour with your host, Matt Miller.
Well, we're in the Jean and Michelle Roddenberry Exhibition Hall. It's STLV Day 3. Let's see what else we can find today. Well, I found Ken from Mission Log here at STLV in the Roddenberry booth.
Yep.
Ken, thanks for a little bit of your time on today's show.
Oh, absolutely.
Podcasting.
Yes.
You guys have built up quite a few shows talking about our beloved franchise.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like to explore the franchise with others?
Well, for me, it's kind of interesting, actually. So Rod was a fan of another podcast that I did for a while, and we talked a little bit. He said, theoretically, if somebody was doing a podcast, whatever. And eventually, we finally got down to a point where I was like, okay, I think you're going to ask me, so I'll just go ahead and say yes. And then we can work out, details later. The thing is, when he asked me if I wanted to do it, I said, so basically you want me to do what I did all through my 20s, which was sit and watch an episode of Star Trek and then discuss it with a friend of mine. Now, John was not someone that I knew before, but Rod knew him from another podcast as well. So we were both podcasters before we knew each other and before we started doing this. John is much more... he was much more into Star Trek as a kid than I was. I was much more into TNG as a teen. But, this was really the kind of thing that I did just sort of with my free time, so now other people get to listen.
And it's become a bit of a network.
It has.
Roddenberry podcasting.
Yeah. So we started Mission Log, and then the people at Women at Warp had a really impressive show that we liked. They ended up not being on their network anymore, and we said, great, come over and play with us, and they did. Around the same time, we found the people at Priority One, which is a fantastic podcast. It's sort of like a news magazine show about Star Trek. We invited them both on at the same time, and so we went from having one show to having three all of a sudden, and then we developed a live show from Mission Log, and then Roddenberry Entertainment actually developed the Trek Files, so that took us up to 5, I think. And then somebody has come to us now, Allison Pitt, who used to be on Priority One, has come to us with a daily Star Trek news show.
Oh, wow.
That's 6. And then we have another show that is not Star Trek related, that's a science show. It's actually been out there for a while. They teach about science through storytelling. And we really wanted to boost their signal. Rod especially was a big fan of their show, or is a big fan of their show. So that's Shabam, that's 7. And then I think there are 2 or 3 that we're still sort of kicking around, working on. One is actually going as far as we're recording a little bit, but we don't know yet what it's going to be or if it's going to be. But yeah, always trying to grow it.
It can be this big thing, can't it? When you start sort of diving into the minutiae of Star Trek, it just becomes there are so many facets to explore.
There are. And that's what's really cool. All of those shows that I was talking about that are Star Trek podcasts, we're all coming at it from a different angle. I would say the 2 that are most closely related are probably Priority One and Daily Star Trek News, although they're different because Priority One maybe do 4 stories a week and have a deep discussion about those, whereas Daily Star Trek News is doing 16 stories a week minimum and a couple of other features as well.
Wow.
It's a short, quick hit of just like, you want to know what's happening today, here's what's happening today, see you tomorrow, which is not so much a discussion thing, but really serves an underserved need, I think.
Garrod is sitting right next to me, and she wants to say hi. My, how wonderful it is to see you. Yes, what a wonderful boy you are. All those diapers you're wearing? Very handsome, yes, very handsome indeed. Well, my husband's waving to me to shut up, so I'll be quiet now. Yeah, she's tough. She's tough. That's a tough mom, I'm telling you.
It's Mr. Robert O'Reilly. Rob, thanks so much for your time.
Good to be here.
Now, Mrs. Martok, I was going to say Mrs. Martok, she's obviously sitting next to you. Mm-hmm. Not at the moment.
No, Mrs. Gowron, my mother, by the way.
Your mother?
Yes, my mother.
Where did this character come from?
Well, we have no idea. You mean Gowron or my mother?
Your mother.
Well, I came from my mother, and she came whatever way she came. I'm not sure how it was possible, but, I never knew either of my grandparents, but I suppose they had something to do with it, unless they got her from a field growing sideways like a big watermelon, and then she would have just well, she wouldn't talk so much, I suppose, so...
I came from a strawberry patch, apparently.
A strawberry patch?
Yeah.
Yes, you do look a little bit like a strawberry. Yes, but strawberries are wonderful, yes, as long as you're not allergic to them, which actually quite a lot of people are, and Klingons tend to be that way, too. Mama, are you allergic to strawberries? My, I love strawberries with lots of ghoul on it, and those wormy things. Oh, what a wonderful dish. Okay, shut up, Mom. Okay.
Wow. It is such a thrill to be standing here with you, Rob. Well, it was so good that I couldn't not share it. Robert O'Reilly is coming up on a Trekzone conversation later in the month. Honestly, the best interview that I think I've ever done in 6 years of podcasting. Huge thanks to Bob O'Reilly for that. Well, that's a wrap on day 3 of STLV. We've got 2 more days, and the weekend is just going to be huge. There are Star Trek Picard panels coming up. There is going to be news. I can feel it in my bones. We'll see you tomorrow.